Welcome to the Circle of Trust podcast with your host, law firm CMO Keith Dyer. Brought to you by LEXGRO, the leader in law firm marketing strategy, training, and implementation. If you're ready to grow your law firm with predictable case flow and revenue, you're in the right place.
Hello, and welcome everyone to this edition of the Circle of Trust podcast. I'm joined today by Darren Findling, the Probate Pro from Detroit, Michigan. Welcome to the show, Darren.
Glad to be here, Keith. Thanks for having me.
Sure. I kick these things off usually by just trying to find out some more things about you and the Probate Pro and how you got to where you are right now. Tell us a little bit about your journey to become an attorney that focuses on probate.
Sure. Let's start from the beginning, the origin story. Keith, I was born in the back of a 1969 Oldsmobile Cutlass. No hospital.
This sounds like a song. So
yeah, we'll make it into a country song at the end. No hospital, no doctor, just chaos. My mom said the world was ready for me before her body was. And growing up the youngest in a dysfunctional family, I saw firsthand how emotion, betrayal tears families apart. That's why I gave birth to the Probate Pro. We step in when others shy away. When others say it can't be done, we see a problem we're solving. And the Probate Pro has, for the last 30 years, been the go-to, the one-stop probate law firm to solve people's probate-related issues. We are a national probate firm. We coin ourselves as the one-stop probate firm. I happen to be speaking to you in Michigan, but we serve all states for purposes of the probate coordination work that we do.
I got you. And you work with law firms all across the country to help them with disputes they are having, right?
Yeah. So one of the common issues that exists with law firms is when large law firms are handling mass tort cases or personal injury cases, they need a probate estate to be established to give them standing, their clients standing to file a lawsuit. So our firm provides that support, and then we carry on and provide that legal support from the beginning of the matter all the way on through the closing of the matter. So we're involved at the beginning of the lawsuit all the way to distribution and closing. So we are primarily a business-to-business firm. We generate about 85-90% of our business from other lawyers around the country, and then about 10 to 15% is a business to consumer relationship based on our brand strength and our work that we do out in the communities, people that are looking for direct legal services through our firm.
So in these mass tort cases or these PI cases, when something comes to probate, you're able to be brought in to work with the law firm and settle that so they don't have to take their time and resources to go do it because it's not as typical as normal, the processing of a normal case might be. Is that correct?
Not exactly. Actually, the problem presents itself right when the death occurs. So for example, in an auto accident scenario, somebody may be tragically killed in an auto accident. The plaintiff's firm is interested in representing the family to pursue the cause of action. But
Sure.
Before they can do so, they need the probate court's involvement to give somebody the standing, the right to file that lawsuit through the probate proceeding to issuance of a letter of authority. We become involved right at the onset, and we work with the personal injury firm at the same time on behalf of the client. And then during the litigation, we keep and address all the probate related issues. And then at the end, of course, we're involved in the settlement related issues for distribution.
Okay, I see. So you actually get in. It's almost procedural more than it is. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Understood.
and every family is different. So some people die with lots of assets, and some people die with no other assets other than pursuing the cause of action.
I got you. And so other law firm clients all over the country.
Yeah, we work with most of the large law firms around the country that are doing personal injury work. I don't want to say we work with all of them because there are firms out there that we don't work with, but we probably have communicated with them, or maybe we do some of their work. We work with firms all over the country. Thousands of lawyers around the country send work through our law firm to assist in this particular pain point for them.
So when you got out of law school, did you start this firm right away, or did you go to work for another firm and then decide this is where you wanted to niche in?
I was in a interesting situation. I got done with law school, and my father said to me, "Hey, Darren, instead of interviewing to some of the larger law firms, why don't you come work at the firm that I'm at?" My dad was a sole practitioner. He said to me, "Darren, I have no ability to pay you. I have no clients to give you, but you'll learn from me." And I didn't want to pass up on that opportunity. So I moved into a windowless closet in the office, and I sat down. I remember the first few days quite well. I sat down at my desk and I looked at my phone, and it was just sitting there. An hour went by, 2 hours went by, and I had forgotten, had failed to even recognize that you have to make the phone ring, that there has to be a way to get business because my dad wasn't going to give me any. So I remember pledging to myself that I'm going to do whatever it takes to make that phone ring constantly. And then I committed the last 30 years to making the phone ring off the hook. And that's what I've been committed to doing, because when you leave law school, you have no sense of what it means to generate business, to be an
Right.
entrepreneur, to create leads, to create relationships, to build a portfolio of prospective clients. None of this is taught. So I learned it very quickly by staring at the phone that was not ringing, and I pledged that was never going to happen again.
It's really cool that you came to that epiphany so quickly. You're like, wait a minute, I know how to do everything except get the business that I've been trained to actually that you've been trained to actually do, right? You're like, you don't know how to actually get the business itself. And I would assume that your dad's firm was probably built off referrals and his good name and his good work. Was that a good assumption? Is that a correct assumption?
Yeah, my dad started practicing at a time when the profession was quite different. He wanted to be a generalist, he didn't want to be a specialist. When I came in, I wanted to be a specialist. I believed that was the right approach, to be very hyper focused in a very particular niche. And I was quite entrepreneurial. I didn't know that I was entrepreneurial, but I was. I was able to recognize niches within the field. How do I create value for clients such that they'd want to hire us? So this entire Probate Pro concept was born from a recognition that there was a need in the community. It didn't really exist, and that it was a great value addition to the people that we may be working with. And I also recognized that going direct to consumer was expensive. The cost of acquisition is quite high to acquire new relationships and new clients. But if you can acquire one good referral source, those people will continue to pay dividends throughout your entire career. So I spent most of my energy focusing on developing and establishing and nurturing relationships with referral sources such that they would create a great funnel of work that would come into the Probate Pro, rather than going out direct to consumer over and over again and paying the cost of acquisition.
So you niched into a discipline. You had the foresight to do that, which meant that you could really find the right referral partners because they didn't do what you did necessarily. But it sounds like you eventually did begin to venture out to try to get more business through other types of acquisition. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we spent a lot of energy recognizing what we were doing quite well, and then we wanted to grow and scale. I didn't want to just be a successful lawyer here in Metro Detroit. I became the largest probate practice here in the state of Michigan, and then I wanted to repeat the concept. So I opened an office initially in Ohio, and then gained traction and success there, and then opened up an office in Chicago, Illinois, and then opened up another office in Florida. And again, with this idea that I had found a really good recipe that I wanted to scale and grow. And there's a lot of intention around that plan of growth.
So what other ways did you end up utilizing other than referral building?
Yeah, so most of my business is spent most of my time and energy is spent in building and developing and strengthening relationships such that they will then feed the Probate Pro so that the cost of acquisition will be lower.
Yeah.
And we also spend a lot of energy utilizing and spreading our brand within the communities that we sit. For example, here in the Detroit area, we put a lot of energy into brand recognition, not just among lawyers, but also direct to consumer, a lot of social media, a lot of publishing of creative and unique content that's relevant to those that would be interested in consuming it. So we know that in my particular area, there's a lot of people that want to try to do this work maybe on their own, and they realize that's complicated to do. So we provide a lot of content on how to do it on your own, with an understanding that some of those people will be able to figure it out, and some of those people will say, I just can't do this. This is more than I could imagine. And then they contact the Probate Pro to perform the legal work. So we put a lot of energy in a lot of how-to videos. There's a video that I produce each day. We're prolific in terms of video creation that goes out and explains probate-related concepts that go out every single day on all of the social media channels. And then there's long form content showing people how to navigate through the process.
Yeah, I totally get the referrals are huge. I preach to my clients, you do the mass marketing stuff that you do so you can touch more people to get more referrals that lowers your cost per acquisition, right? So it's all part of it. It's the same system. If you can convert in the places that you need to convert, then you send people out there as happy marketers for you because they've had a good experience. And so I totally
also, Keith, we put a lot of energy into marketing to lawyers who may not need our services then, who may not need our services for 2-3 months, 2-3 years. But when they do have a probate related issue, we want to be first on their mind. So we put a lot of energy into that, which is quite different than the business to consumer strategy. It's a little bit like hiring a plumber. You think of this particular area that I'm in when you have a need, when you have an issue, and that's like calling the plumber. Most people don't have a list of plumbers that they're going to potentially call down the road when there is a problem with their sink.
Yeah, they're gonna recall what's top of mind to them.
Right. So we put a lot of energy and a lot of commitment into brand strength, and the Probate Pro really is a brand that we care deeply about. We have a lot of thought behind what that brand means and how we want that brand to be conveyed to the larger public, both lawyers and non-lawyers.
And so people, when they're exposed to this a lot, even though they don't need you right now, it's no different than if you get injured, right? You're probably not injured most of your life, but there's a point where you're going to be injured and you want to be the firm needs to be top of mind, or at least close for people. So the B2B, B2C, I get the differences are more methods, but the concepts are the same, right?
I think the B2C tends to be a more immediate need. We happen to be there when they need it. The B2B is a plan that really is designed for both now and in the future.
Yeah, you use your content to educate. And then a lot of folks might, when you say a lot, and when I say a lot, I really mean like a small percentage of them will be able to do it on their own, but the majority of them have other things to do, and they would rather leave it to someone who's an expert. And that's what you've done, is create the authority to show that you are. And so they subconsciously have the trust in you because they have familiarity, right?
Yeah, we put a lot of energy into what we do and thought behind what that content is. And we also want to be good stewards to our community, and we want to provide content. This is the area that I'm in, happens to be an area that has a lot of elderly, brain injured, mental health, people who are disabled, legally incapacitated, and people that can't necessarily afford a lawyer. So we put tremendous amount of content knowing that those people are going to have the opportunity to use that content, maybe without a lawyer, because they couldn't afford the skill set that we provide, but they've got resources available to them. So it serves a variety of purposes. It's not just purely marketing. It is part of our brand strategy. We want to be helpful to the community upon which we live and we serve.
Sure. I think that will come across in the way that you do things. It sounds like it does. That's one of your goals, is to make sure that people know that this is a service that can help people, even if they're not paying. They can come here and learn. They can at least get an idea of maybe what needs to be done and what kind of timing it needs to be done in, that sort of thing.
Absolutely correct.
Yeah. So how many offices are you guys up to now across the country?
Yeah, so in terms of physical plants, because these are plants with brick and mortar, there are now 3 physical plants. We service though every state, so we built out a network of lawyers. So if someone were to contact us and they needed a lawyer in a small town in South Dakota, or in Manhattan, or in rural Texas, we've got the entire country covered, including the territory. So we get cases, we have a large volume here. We get cases in every nook and cranny of the United States, and we are able to support them through our coordination network that we've built out.
I got you. So the Probate Pros came about from your starting off in your dad's office, and you've just stayed on that course ever since then.
Yeah, in fact, the name came about a little bit later. So it originated, I was using our last name, my family last name, to begin. And then I wanted to create a brand that was bigger than my own name and distanced from my own name. I wanted to create a business and a brand. So the Probate Pro was part of that thought that although it's really nice and it's very supportive of your ego to have your name on things, I wanted to build something much bigger than myself. Otherwise, they're going to ask for me to handle every single case, and that's not possible when you're handling thousands upon thousands of matters at a time.
Sure, makes sense. I was looking at your website here, and I think it's funny. This got you doing almost like a backwards handstand on the front there. What's that all about?
Yeah, again, this is a brand strategy. So we know that when people were creating their own websites, almost everybody stood there in front of a bunch of books with their arms crossed, showing how serious of a lawyer they were.
Well, that's the same every law firm website, right?
We don't take ourselves that seriously, number one. Number two, we call that the sea of sameness. How are we going to stand out? Everything that we do, how are we going to stand out? Rather than looking like everyone else. Yeah, and we don't model ourselves against any other law firms. Law firms are usually terrible at running businesses. They're usually terrible at marketing and branding. We're looking larger. How do we stand out among a sea of sameness? Now, the good thing is that most lawyers are really afraid to do anything different. So there is a sea of sameness. So it's, in one sense, it's a lot easier to stand out among a bunch of lawyers who are all scared of being different and unique.
They really get caught up in it. I've had so many clients limit themselves in their ability to market because they're like, I don't want to come across as being too different. I'm like, that's exactly what you want to do.
And that's the whole point. The whole point of marketing is to stand out so that you are gaining attention. It's really hard to gain attention if everything looks the same.
Yeah.
If everyone looks exactly the same, you're going to get what everyone else is getting. So we're intentional about being uniquely ourselves, yet standing out. Now, again, you don't know me, Keith, but my personality is very comfortable being myself and very comfortable not being like anyone else. So that helps our comfort as it relates to building a business that way. So within the rules, how do we stand out? How do we look different? How do we act different? How do we give a client experience that's not like anybody else's client experiences, but is the experience that should occur?
Right.
It's quite different. We don't look at any other law firms how they're doing it. They're usually terrible at delivering a client experience. They're terrible at branding. And I'm not suggesting that we've got all the answers, but we're looking elsewhere. We're looking at best in business, not best in law firm, to get ideas on how to improve the quality of our business.
Yeah, I love that. And it really is a mindset, I think is what you're really saying. And when I try to educate law firms on being entrepreneurial and growing their brand and growing their marketing, not only do I talk about the details, but I start off with, okay, here are the successful firms that I've worked with and the mindset that the guys and gals that I was working with had, what they had in order for them to become successful. And it's things that people aren't comfortable with sometimes. They don't understand it. It's catches, it's phrases, it's whatever you can do to be memorable. When people are familiar with you subconsciously, their guards, even they may not even realize it, go down more because they think with their marketing, they must be successful. And I've even seen that in my own marketing at times. So totally agree with you and get that.
Yeah, and I
So
think, Keith, to the point, and I don't know the people you're referring to, but ultimately, if they're not comfortable in their own skin, their own sense of self, then it's really hard for them to feel comfortable being the face of a business, doing things that, are unique or standing out. So I think that it has to start really with the leader of the business and their comfort around standing out. But ultimately, if you want to be like everybody else, just follow everybody else. There's a bunch of sheep in this world. There's just a lot of people that just want to follow each other. Great, wonderful, love you, but we're not following anybody. We're going to lead. We're going to lead. And that's how that is the mindset around the growth of our business.
So in the growth of this, are there some over time in your career, have there been some resources or places where you've learned a lot? And feel free to share it with our listeners. Who do you look up to or work with or have worked with or books you've read, whatever it might be?
Yeah, it's a great question because as confident as I may seem as I'm expressing our growth and our business success, I stand on the shoulders of many people that have guided me, provided assistance along the way. Because I didn't know any of this 30 years ago. I knew none of it. I had not read any business books. I had not been trained. I had not learned none of it 30 years ago. Some of it was intuitive. I had a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit, but I didn't have any of the learned resources. So first and foremost, I am a disciple of Gino Wickman, who wrote Traction and is of EOS. Gino happens to be a Detroiter. I was very early on. I learned about Gino, and to this day, Gino is still the implementer of the Probate Pro. I think we're one of 15 businesses around the world.
Wow, amazing. I've read this book. I'm actually implementing EOS into our business as we speak.
Terrific. Yeah. So Gino happens to be one of our implementers, and having spent that many years thinking about operations of business, and the Traction language and EOS language is really helpful. Second, early on, about 30 years ago, I was involved in a group, whether you want to call it a mastermind or a peer group of successful business people. And we meet once a month for 5 hours, and then we do a retreat. And that group, we call it En Route, that is the name of it, has been instrumental in providing a sounding board for everything. And not just a sounding board, but to also learn best practices from all of those that are around me. And then, of course, I read most of the big business books. I try to consume as much as I can to understand the great thought leaders. And I'm come from a mindset of a constant learning mindset, which is it is always, I'm going to learn everywhere from everyone. So everybody I speak to, whether it's a vendor, another lawyer, a client, my intention is, what can I learn in this moment? So I go to a lot of conferences, I speak to people all the time. And again, as good as we are, I think we're at about 10% of where we need to be. We got about 90% growth opportunity. So I've got about 10% foundation. I still have 90% to implement, to learn, and to grow. A lot of opportunity to continue to grow and scale this business. And I am going to continue to talk to as many people and be like a sponge to gather the necessary information to allow our business to achieve what it deserves to become. And so That is the best explanation. And entrepreneurs love to surround themselves with other entrepreneurs. We enjoy it. Visionaries love talking to other visionaries. So my friend group tends to be a lot of really talented visionary people. And I love discussing business concepts with them. And I learn. The goal is to learn, share, learn, share, learn. So that's my mindset.
Yeah, I love that. I couldn't agree more. I decided to niche into the law firm world, even though I've been working with attorneys for a couple of decades. I niched down into it about 5 or 6 years ago. And then I went on a odyssey of going to pretty much every law firm marketing or growth conference I could go to. Luckily, I had a client that was also interested in doing that with me. And we just learned. We went through a year and a half, 2 year period of basically almost like PhD level of learning, because once you start going to these different things, you can cross-reference their ideas and then put them against your own and what you learned in your years of doing this. And I even went back and eventually got a digital business and AI degree and learned a lot from that. So I don't think you ever can stop learning, especially in the environment we're in now, where the technology is changing so quickly and the way people can market changes so fast. And you have to always be observing what's happening around you and trying to absorb what you can to grow and scale, as you mentioned.
Yeah, again, there are people that don't really want to grow.
Yeah.
I come from a grow or die mindset. You're either growing or you're dying. You're really not doing both. You're either growing or you're dying. So there are many people that just aren't interested in constant evolution, change, adaptation, which is wonderful. Great. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Those that are going to achieve great results have a different mindset. They have an infinite mindset, I think, as Simon Sinek wrote. This idea that you're constantly learning, constantly evolving, never getting too comfortable in their ways. I just had a conversation about 4 hours ago about essentially redesigning every inch of this business, reconceptualizing every inch of this business. Not because we're failing, but because it needs to be reconceptualized to grow to the next level that we want it to grow to.
Yeah, the forest that you enter into is not the forest that you're in 5 miles in. It's changing. And so you got to figure out how to get through it. And I think the AI thing, the more we advance technologically, the faster we advance.
Yeah, no question. And AI, we're at an interesting moment. There are going to be people that are making changes, intentionally making changes to adapt with AI. And there are going to be people that are existentially at threat because of AI are going to get wiped off the map. So we think about AI and how it's going to evolve and change our business at every single meeting. We have discussions around it.
You have to. Same here. And you have to try things and fail and try and readjust and try them again.
No question about it.
Listen,
AI, I spent 30 years of my life after getting a law degree, taking this very specialized degree, this scarcity degree, a degree that only certain people around the country have, a law degree. And I've been selling the services around that law degree for 30 years. AI is going to democratize the scarcity of knowledge. It's going to make that knowledge available almost to everybody. And now I don't know how quickly this is going to occur, but it's pretty much there. So all of a sudden, this degree that I've, in my business, where I have invested all this energy over the last 30 years and been able to sell it because of its scarcity and the great value I could create from it, is now going to be democratized. So then what happens? It's a threat to ultimately my business as well as pretty much anybody's business.
Certainly mine. Yeah.
No question. So we all have to understand the problem, and then how are we going to adapt and change the business to continue to create value, serve the clients, do great work, all of this. And these are the discussions that happen in my business.
Yeah, I love the way you put that, the democratization of knowledge, because that's what really AI, at this iteration and generative AI, that's what it's all about. The next one is agentic AI. And then so we'll have to worry about that when it gets here, but we have to think about it now.
Yeah, no question. I'm starting to get documents generated from non-represented clients, not of mine, but opposing people who clearly are writing their responses through generative AI, where you're able to smell it, like a school teacher who can tell when the child cheated because they know that it was created by generative AI.
Yeah, and I've even used it to create agreements for myself if they're not super important ones.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah. This has been a great discussion, Darren, and I appreciate you sharing with us your approach to growth and marketing and entrepreneurial endeavors. And I wish you the best with your company. Thanks for being with your law firm. Thanks for being on our podcast. I appreciate it.
It's been enjoyable, Keith. It's always fun to talk business, and I appreciate the opportunity to join you here today.
Thank you very much. Maybe we'll have you on again soon. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Circle of Trust powered by LEXGRO. If you enjoyed today's episode, follow us and leave a review. Want to grow your law firm faster? Book a free strategy call at lexgro.com. Until next time, keep growing, keep innovating. Let's grow with LEXGRO.